President Mwai Kibaki of Kenya was a polygamous man of 2 wives, but his first wife, Lucy Muthoni, did everything within her power to keep it a secret. This is the story of Mama Lucy Kibaki's scandals, controversies, and dramatic ways through which she would often embarrass President Kibaki in public. Even deeper, this is the story of power, resilience, and the absolute integrity Mama Lucy represented in Kibaki's State House, and why many, including herself, would seem to believe that she was indeed the first true female president of Kenya.
I am the most qualified and the most senior person to speak politics in this country.
This very interesting narrative has 2 sides, the good and the bad. We start with the bad, then look into the brilliance and leadership of Lucy Muthoni, First Lady Extraordinaire.
It's unfortunate that we don't have a woman minister in the ministry in the administration of ministry, neither in internal security. We can. If there was a woman member of parliament in the Ministry of Internal Security, she would have stopped these accidents.
This is also the story of Mwai Kibaki's hidden love affair with Mary Wambui, the female politician he had allegedly married in a secret ceremony in 1972.
Wakati nilikuwa natafuta kura ya Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki kwa sababu ni bwana yangu, siku hiyo nilikuwa nafanya kazi. Sasa kazi nyingine ni ya kusaidia. Na ndio mimi nasema asante sana. Mnacheka kwa nini?
This is the video that answers the questions in the mind of many Kenyans on whether First Lady Lucy Kibaki did what she did due to mental health issues. Was Lucy an old crazy lady with power, or is it that she was disgusted by the conduct of the men Kenyans kept electing and elevating to high places at that time?
You women give things easily, many don't. At this century, you should know you have to be aggressive to get what you want.
We begin with one strange ordeal that happened in the year 2005. It was on a weekend, the last day of April, and one of Mama Lucy's neighbors in the ultra-wealthy neighborhood of Muthaiga in Nairobi was throwing a party that evening. That neighbor was the then country director of the World Bank in Kenya, and his name was Makhtar Diop. It happened that Mr. Diop had just finished his term as Kenya's country director to the World Bank, and the party at his house was a farewell party for his friends and colleagues who he would be leaving behind in Nairobi as he went back to his country to begin his next assignment. Mama Lucy Kibaki, being the most powerful neighbor anyone could have in the country at the time, had also been notified about the evening party next door. Mr. Makhtar Diop was a Senegalese national, and he had been Mama Lucy's tenant in Nairobi, having rented President Kibaki's luxurious Muthaiga home after the first family had moved into State House. Later on, Lucy and Kibaki would come back to build another home next to the one they had rented out to Diop in Muthaiga, and here the First Lady loved to maintain neighborhood silence whenever she was here and not staying at the State House residence. While Kibaki spent much of his time in Nairobi State House at his office doing his work from there, Lucy Kibaki herself did not seem too fond of the house on the hill, and she had been quoted once telling Kenyans that there was nothing particularly special about that house.
Nataka mujue State House nini? Ni kinyumba kimoja kikubwa kizee. State House ni museum. Huo ni ukweli mtu. State House mahali special, ni jina tu. Ni office ya serikali. Kuna mistaka ile ya bao ile ya zamani ile ilikuwa wakati wa mkoloni. Na viti ni ile tu. Isipokuwa rais tunamununulia viti ya siku hizi. No one is qualified at this point in time to take that position.
On the night of Mr. Diop's party, Lucy was around in Muthaiga. At that farewell party, Kenya's hottest live singers had been invited to entertain those in attendance, and the musicians were Eric Wainaina, Mercy Maira, and Suzanne Kibukosia. British newspaper The Guardian records that musician Eric Wainaina was just getting ready to start entertaining the live audience when Mama Lucy arrived in the compound, which was technically hers, flanked by her children Judy and David and the men in her security detail. Mactar Diop and his wife would try to explain some excuses to Mama Lucy to make her leave and stop the party pooping. Mama Lucy, being who she was, had been a very keen custodian of the pristine silence around this super-rich neighborhood that she and her husband had built 2 houses in. She believed that Diop's music was too loud and insisted that the whole setup be brought down in favor of more subtle live music.
Besides taking science-based subjects seriously, I urge girls to say no to all forces that can ruin their chances of education.
From the scene she was causing, Mama Lucy's own children that she had come with would get embarrassed and even try to persuade her to just let them be, since the World Bank expatriate had promised to end his party early. In the angry, heated negotiations that happened in the full view of some of Nairobi's financial and societal creme de la creme, Mama Lucy would be hard confronting Diop by asking him who his mother was, that he had not been taught how to obey his seniors.
Wanatukana wazazi, sijui walilewa namna gani, hawafahamu wazazi ni nani.
As you would expect, there were journalists who had been invited to this party, and they too witnessed firsthand as the First Lady stormed into the place demanding silence. That following morning, the Sunday Nation, which was one of the best-selling newspaper editions throughout the week, would publish a headline story about the Mama Lucy Muthaiga incidents. When the First Lady saw the headline, she was very angry, and she would immediately start making phone calls that same day.
Waacheni na wapiga tomo wapige tomo. Unajua tomo ndomo. Tomo ndomo. Ndomo. Kazi endelee.
Later that Sunday night, Mama Lucy would arrive at Nation Center with members of her security, and she went straight to the newsroom where the newspaper reporters worked. A senior police officer in Nairobi identified as Kingori Mwangi was also there as Mama Lucy Kibaki confronted the journalist about the newspapers whose copies she had come holding in her hands. In some records, it even appears that he had brought not the newspaper from Nation which the story in question had been written, but also a copy bearing a headline from the rival newspaper The Standard, just to demonstrate how badly the entire media industry had been disrespecting her.
Yes, I did.
Is it possible to give us your account of
why I went? Because he had been told by a senior security officer, you are to go there during the day when those people are setting loud music, to tell them that they cannot play loud music. You can only play normal music. You know, they had a commercial party there. I don't know from which nightclub. Then all the other huge speakers with all guitars, what have you. Now, he went there. Me, I had walked there in the afternoon, not knowing that the OCS was there also, had gone before me. And I found when the OCS went, they continued setting their music. The band they had hit it. They brought it after that.
In the video from the incident, you see Mama Lucy trying to explain her side of the story concerning the night fiasco at Mactar Diop's home in Muthaiga, and she was saying that she had sent a police OCS ahead to warn them in that home that she would not tolerate loud music in the affluent neighborhood. She had come into the Nation Center at around 11:30 p.m. at night, and she would remain inside lecturing the journalistic staff about ethics, and now they had been collaborating to spread lies about her and her family until 3 a.m. in the morning. In the same famous video, the First Lady can be shown confronting a camera person who was filming, a man later identified as Clifford Derrick Otieno, asking him whether he is among those who had gone to the Muthaiga police station earlier that Sunday, trying to investigate by asking if she had recorded a statement about the Diop noise case.
Don't take my picture, you. This one is taking my picture. You can't do that.
So you're just working.
Give that camera, you can't.
The First Lady seemed very upset, not just about the story by the Nation newspaper, but also by them not including her explanation of the events and why she had acted how she did. She felt that the story had been biased and unbalanced. Of all things that Mama Lucy hated about the media stories, none irritated her more than the reported relationship between her husband, President Mwai Kibaki, and his alleged second wife, Mary Wambui. Mary Wambui, a tall, light-skinned politician from Nyeri, had been a major problem for Lucy since Kibaki moved into State House Nairobi as the third president. Mary Wambui's relationship with Mwai Kibaki was such a hot rumor that the Standard newspaper, a national newspaper, would publish an audacious front page headline saying Kibaki had gotten married to Mary Wambui in a traditional customary Kikuyu wedding ceremony back in 1972 when Kibaki was Kenyatta's finance minister in his early 40s.
Few months after being sworn in, Standard published a sensational headline claiming that Kibaki had a second wife by the name of Mary Wambui.
The sensational Standard newspaper story had been published barely weeks after Kibaki had been sworn into office as president. Wambui had been a teacher before she met Kibaki and would later quit to work at KANU offices in Nyeri as a grassroots mobilizer. It is said that after their hush-hush African-style wedding in 1972, many in Kibaki's extended family and fellow villagers in Gakoyaini Nyeri were also reported to know and approve of Mary Wambui as another one of Mwai Kibaki's wives.
Unaniuliza kabla halijatukia bana? Si lazima
In 1978, when Mwai Kibaki was named as Daniel Moi's very first vice president following the death of Jomo Kenyatta, some say that he took Mary Wambui as his personal secretary at the office of the vice president, with some wondering how that could have been under the watch of the strict First Lady Mama Lucy Kibaki. Kibaki was even said to put Mary Wambui in charge of his big agricultural farm in Narumoro known as Ruare Farm. The rumors say that when she had first been put in charge of the farm by Mwai Kibaki, Mary Wambui would be seen driving around in a brand new Peugeot 504, an expensive French car associated with Kenya's middle class back then, and she was also said to have moved out of our original Mombi estate house into a much more expensive one on the Ring Road estate. While many Kenyans would be confused by the early allegations from the Standard about Kibaki's second wife, especially having been used to his public image of an extremely westernized family man,
mtu ambaye ameriport na ameriport kutoka hapa is bloody buri kabisa.
Those from Kibaki's backyard knew that his father Mzee Githobu Kibaki had been a polygamous man himself many years back. In a certain dramatic incident shortly after the Standard newspaper's sensational headline about Mary Wambui, it would happen that First Lady Lucy Kibaki was attending an end-of-year party in 2003 together with other government dignitaries in Nairobi. In the New Year's Eve party, the new Kibaki administration was celebrating not just that New Year 2004, but also one whole year since they had been elected in the December 27, 2002 general elections.
I challenge the leaders, wake up, take up your responsibilities fully. Our president cannot be everywhere supervising you to see that you are given your job he gave you to do properly and precisely and collectively. If you cannot do it, give it up. There are other Kenyans willing to take the job.
Vice President Moody Awori, who had been appointed after Michael Kijana Wamalwa's death in London that August, was now starting to give a speech to the people present. In what he later insisted to be a slip of the tongue, the VP in his initial greetings would recognize the First Lady not by her name Lucy Kibaki, but he called her by the full name of Mary Wambui, the other woman. Immediately the words had left his mouth, the Vice President knew he had made a mistake, because the First Lady stood up as if reacting on cue and she stormed out, leaving the event in anger as everybody else present felt the awkwardness of embarrassment sweep the room. Standing there feeling like a clown himself, Vice President Moody Awori was profusely apologizing to the backside of the departing First Lady. Some would say that he had been reading too many media stories about the Kibaki family drama that week when he stood up to speak, and that is why he would mix up the names of President Kibaki's alleged co-wives.
But we cannot tolerate the leaders who want to be seen on TV every day, on newspapers every day, parading for the press, saying we shall do this, we don't see the government does this, we don't see this and this and this. That is hollow speech, because from there they don't go to do anything. And I ask you, the media also, those people who parade for you because they want us to see them on your televisions and they want us to read about what they told you on in your newspapers, ignore them, because there is nothing they are doing important for Kenyans. People who have something meaningful doing for Kenyans, they don't parade for the media every day. They are busy working. And they don't need publicity. They know themselves. They know their workers. They give their publicity to the people they work for and to Kenyans. They don't need any advertisement, any other advertisement.
After the Standard newspaper headline about Wambui, the newly elected office of the president had released an official written statement saying that Mary Wambui was not a wife of President Mwai Kibaki, even though journalists back then would raise questions on whether President Kibaki himself had really written that statement, considering that his own signature was not included in the statement. Others claim that Lucy herself had written that statement.
Any questions you can ask? Anybody?
Yes, ask now. And from now on, continue. Write the truth, not lies.
All the complaints and rants from First Lady Lucy Kibaki did not seem to stop Mary Wambui from also enjoying the spoils of state power, and it was reported how, albeit away from the eyes of Mama Lucy, Mwai Kibaki had taken serious care of Wambui and her family. Mary Wambui had a daughter, Winnie Wangui, and they were said to have police escort complete with drivers and state-issued servants in the affluent neighborhood where they lived, all of it thanks to President Mwai Kibaki's people. Lucy Kibaki was also very possessive of her husband, the president, who she seemed to believe to be the only honest and capable man amongst the politicians in the entire cabal of Kano-bred leaders. Former State House Controller Keriri Materi, the man who ran programs around the president in Kibaki's first term in office, is another top government official who has had to go in front of media camera to clear the air about whether or not he too was given a slap in the face by the First Lady. Materi Keriri would later narrate how he came to lose his high-paying job in State House out of continued disagreements with the First Lady Mama Lucy Kibaki. He says Mama Lucy differed with him sharply over how to run Mwai Kibaki's State House, including in the period when Kibaki got really sick and Mama Lucy wanted him to be cared for at home instead of being sent to Nairobi Hospital, which she felt would bring bad political attention to the president and the presidency. The State House Controller had felt it would be better for the head of state to be admitted at the state-of-the-art hospital, which brought him a lot of trouble when he suggested that to Mama Lucy. At one point during his short stint at State House, Mr. Keriri says he had another argument with the First Lady while the first family was in Mombasa when she wanted to decide what was on President Kibaki's diary of activities, a responsibility that Keriri felt was officially his and his alone. Keriri said that the First Lady had not slapped him as the rumors were saying, but the pressure of their constant disagreement ended up forcing him to resign from the office of Mwai Kibaki's State House Programs Controller. An even juicier explanation for why Materi Keriri fell out with the First Lady Mama Lucy Kibaki was that he was forced out of State House out of the claim that he was the man helping Mary Wambui to sneak into the Nairobi State House during certain off hours and visit with President Kibaki without Lucy finding out. In this undenied rumor, it was said that even during Kibaki's illness in 2003, the State House Controller would be caught red-handed by Mama Lucy arranging logistics of how Wambui would get her very own 15 minutes with Mr. President, who many believed was going to die after his alleged stroke in 2003.
Mimi na watoto wangu hatuoni yeye ni mzee, hatuoni tofauti. Vile alivyokuwa miaka 10 iliyopita, ako vile vile tu alivyokuwa. Kwa hivyo wale vijana wanasema watasimama, mutatulia, mutagoja wakati wenu. Hii kazi ya urais si kazi rahisi na si ya kuchezewa, na nchi kama hii yetu inahitaji watu ambao ni mature people.
Even the argument over whether to get the president admitted in Nairobi Hospital instead of the doctors making a ward in his bedroom could have been related to whom the First Lady wanted to have access to the president. Lucy had met Mwai Kibaki in the late 1950s while Kibaki was still a professor in Uganda at the Makerere University, and they got married in a PCA church wedding in Kaboi.
Sasa nataka Mrs. Kibaki
She had been a fairly well-educated person, being a school principal when she met and married Mwai Kibaki. She had been educated at the Alliance Girls High School, and her dedication to Christian values such as integrity and responsibility would over the years get fused into the life of daily political scheming that came with being a wife of a rising Kenyan politician like Mwai Kibaki.
And he asked us Kenyans, when will you ever learn? I replied to him, we will learn when you come to us. Give us civic education. Teach us here in the rural that petrol is dangerous. Don't send your children to go and collect it from a tank when the tank has fallen. Keep off. That's when we shall learn. We have not been taught. Our people are ignorant, but they are innocent.
In their long eventful marriage, Lucy would bear 4 children with Kibaki, and their names were Jimmy, Judy, Tony and David.
Lucy yuko hapa, angewasalimu sijui. Lucy Joe useme kitu.
Mary Wambui's daughter, Winnie Wangui, would however grow up believing that she too deserved every right to be called the other daughter of the president. Having been a young outspoken woman in the period of Kibaki's presidency, she would often make public pronouncements about her place in the family, asserting that Kibaki, who she called her father, had even been taking her on his presidential plane to work-related overseas trips. In another slapping incident, Mama Lucy Kibaki would assault a man in full glare of cameras at a public event. The name of the man was Francis Musimi, who was an assistant secretary at the office of the president and had been assigned to be that day's master of ceremonies at the 43rd Jamhuri celebrations in December 12, 2007. This was happening weeks before that year's violent general elections, and everyone on Kibaki's campaign team was feeling the pressure for the season. Just like Vice President Moody Awori had done many years earlier at a New Year's party, the announcer MC Francis Musimi was introducing the dignitaries present, saying their names as he remembered them, when by accident he said First Lady Lucy Wambui instead of Lucy Muthoni. The man had not even realized his blunder and would go on speaking the other important names on that dais, but First Lady Mama Lucy had been listening keenly, and hearing Wambui, she stood up with a start, making a beeline for the MC in front of her, who she would stop mid-sentence and put an elegant slap on his face. The message was home. She was not going to be addressed by the name of her romantic rivals.
Umewazungumzia na umesema machache, lakini tambo uvae nguo yako maridadi.
In the embarrassing silence that followed, presidential security officers were said to escort Francis Musimi away from the platform in dramatic fashion, as if he was the one who had slapped the First Lady and not the other way around. The head of civil service, Francis Muthaiga, got up and took over being the MC as if nothing had happened. And as if enough dramatic events had not just happened there, the presidential security would further confiscate all the cameras from the few video journalists who had been covering the slap, and then they deleted all the video footage from the scene. There is still not a single minute of video showing how that slap happened, only the written accounts of various people, including international journalists who wrote about it later in their newspaper reports. Once again, British media including the BBC and Guardian would write about how the victim of the Mama Lucy slap, Mr. Francis Musimi, would be reassigned to a different ministry immediately after the embarrassing incident. A former elected member of parliament for Imenti Central, lawyer Githobu Imanyara, is among those Kenyan politicians with a story to tell about Mama Lucy Kibaki. At one time during the Kibaki presidency, the Honourable Githobu Imanyara, who had been elected once before in 1997 and later in 2007, had been a lawyer representing a client in a court case against First Lady Mama Lucy Kibaki.
Leo anasema ate Mr. President amechoka. Alichoka saa ngapi? Simu niulize mimi.
The client Imanyara was representing was Clifford Derrick Otieno, the very same Nation media journalist and camera person that First Lady Mama Lucy Kibaki had slapped for filming her during a dramatic invasion of the Nation Center that night in May 2005. What makes the story confusing is that when the First Lady had come into the Nation Center back then, which is the longtime home of the Daily Nation newspaper and is located inside the Nairobi Central Business District, she had come to confront them about their own story on that Sunday Nation edition, where they had made her look bad for stopping the music at World Bank director Makhtar Diop's home. However, Mama Lucy had also carried a copy of the Standard newspaper, the rival newspaper whose offices were outside town on Mombasa Road, a copy that she was caught displayed to the cameras inside the Nation Center, making later viewers of the video to believe that she had gone to the Standard newspaper and KTN television studios located on Nairobi-Mombasa Highway and not the Nation Center. Even more confusing is the idea that Derrick Clifford Otieno, that same camera person seen being slapped by Mama Lucy in the building, was reportedly an employee of KTN and the Standard newspaper itself, but it is not very well explained how he would end up in there ready to record videos of an angry Mama Lucy immediately she had walked into the building. In the video footage, Mama Lucy was even heard accusing the camera person of investigating her at Muthaiga police station earlier on. Now after the attack, this camera person had sought the services of a lawyer politician, Githobu Imanyara, to sue Mama Lucy in court for assaulting him that night. The case would not go anywhere, and with the intervention of Mwai Kibaki's Attorney General, it would be thrown out for reasons that the filing was not properly done. Even later attempts by independent journalists in the year 2020 to have the case revisited were not any successful.
Reports written about her and her family by all leading media houses in the country. To drive her point home, the First Lady staged a sit-in at the newsroom and threatened not to leave until the reporter who had written a story alleging that she had stormed the Muthaiga police station earlier in the day had been arrested by police. Lucy Kibaki was ranting and raving, her fury directed at the media, which she accused of waging a concerted campaign to undermine the government of President Mwai Kibaki. She confiscated notebooks, pens, cameras, and even mobile phones. She ordered Nairobi Provincial Police Officer Kingori Mwangi to call the Commissioner of Police and tell him that she was at the nation's center.
It was on the foundation of these events that the famous altercation between First Lady Lucy Kibaki and the lawyer Githobu Imanyara MP would happen inside State House Nairobi in the early months of the year 2008. At the time of the following incident, Githobu Imanyara had just been re-elected to his seat in 2007 on Mwai Kibaki's PNU ticket, but he was among those Mount Kenya leaders who had lost their seat back in 2003 after he went against Mwai Kibaki and his wave and was unseated in Central Imenti by the Kibaki side candidate of that time, one Kirugila Iboni Ntomokendia. And therefore, on the fateful day, Imanyara would accompany others to the PNU parliamentary group meeting with the president in State House, knowing very well he was likely to meet the First Lady who hated him for representing that KTN journalist in the court case. Sure enough, when the First Lady walked in and saw the face of lawyer Githobu Imanyara, she was said to get very agitated and started shouting at him and everyone else present, asking who had allowed this man to come into our own house. Some reports say that in the process of confronting him about the Derek Clifford case, Lucy had slapped this MP on the face in front of the other elected leaders, who froze in their shoes, watching helplessly as the angry First Lady demanded for Imanyara to get up and leave State House. Imanyara himself would later tell a different version of this story about how he was the one who raised his hand to slap the First Lady after she had shoved him and not the other way around. He would say that Mama Lucy grabbed him by the scruff of his shirt, but he slapped her and she fell on the floor. He said the First Lady came out of her bedroom still wearing her pajamas and barefooted when all this happened, but members of State House staff and security who witnessed the drama would claim that Imanyara himself never lay hands on the First Lady and that the blows went one way that day. As if to contradict his own account of the events, Githobu Imanyara held multiple press conferences protesting Mama Lucy's attack, saying he would sue her for assault and even saying that the first family ought to pay one goat to the Njorincheke ruling council of the Ameru community where Imanyara had been elected leader. It would eventually take the intervention of President Mwai Kibaki himself for the matter to be fully settled. Lucy Kibaki was not just a moral police. Many times she was the watchdog that protected the president from his ministers, often criticizing the mistakes of government officials, even senior ones, in a manner that always endeared her to the general public and made her seem like a mtetezi wa mwananchi.
The minister who is there today, and I'm going to say Minister Saitoti, he waits until he hears of bandits in Northeastern, bandits somewhere else, and the next day you see him there. Internal Security Ministry means you protect everybody in Kenya. You stop accidents. Don't tell me that is the job of the Minister for Transport or for roads. No, it is yours. It is for Professor Saitoti. It is yours. I was angry yesterday. Last evening when I saw him on TV, he has gone to that spot where 118 Kenyans died. And this is all he had to say. I hope you Kenyans, this tragedy will teach you a lesson. He told us that this tragedy will teach us a lesson. How can dead people be taught a lesson? They are already dead. And I wondered, why did he fly all the way from Nairobi to go tomorrow to say that? To hurt the people who are already mourning their dead.
She was very active in many decisions made in Kibaki's regime, sometimes even introducing herself at public events as not just the wife and representative of President Mwai Kibaki, but also a representative of the people of Kenya. Back in 2005, when Mwai Kibaki had fallen out with his coalition brothers in his first term in office, First Lady Lucy Kibaki was the first person to confirm against rumors that indeed Kibaki would be seeking a second term in the 2007 general elections.
Wengine wanasema, wanauliza atasimama tena. Kwa nini hatasimama tena?
In the most famous incidents that took place in 2009, President Mwai Kibaki would appear before the press in company of his wife Lucy and announced to the world what was supposed to be obvious, that he had only one wife and 4 children, and that Mary Wambui and her daughter Winnie Wangui were lying, associating themselves with him.
Good. Welcome to this press conference. This is my wife, Lucy, and I want to state something that I've wanted you to hold dear and permanently in your heart. You know, and I know, and everybody else knows that I'm married and I have only one wife, and everyone in Kenya knows it. But the media keeps repeating about my having another wife or wives. I want to make it very clear that I have only one dear wife, Lucy, who's here, and I do not have any other.
The emotional 2009 press statement by Mwai Kibaki about his marriage was happening in a period when Kenyans had not fully forgotten a big scandal involving the president's alleged second family. Winnie Wangui had been accused of using the state connections she got from being the daughter of Kibaki's second wife to abet and help the criminal activities of 2 foreign nationals, Magarian Alto and his brother Sagasian, known to Kenyan media as the R2 brothers, who had been accused of using state machinery from Kenya to do high-profile international trafficking of cocaine and other narcotics. Winnie Wangui would even admit to one of the brothers being the love of her life, even though the two had been thrown out of the country after the Kenyan parliament complained about their alleged activities. After the scandal, First Lady Mama Lucy had even more reasons to want Winnie and her mother to stay as far away from her family as possible.
They did not say that. You have been tormenting us. I don't know what to get out of it.
Mary Wambui remained a successful business person throughout the Kibaki presidency, although she would mostly keep off Lucy Muthoni's limelight until a new government took over and the Kibakis retired, and then she would come out to vie for the member of parliamentary seat in Kibaki's home constituency of Muthaiga.
Mnacheka kwa nini? Alisema watu waseme mambo na waseme mambo ya kweli.
She was elected as Muthaiga MP for one term between 2013 and 2017. Lcy Kibaki died on April 26, 2016 in a London hospital, and she was 80 years old. Mwai Kibaki was 84 years when the First Lady died, and in a historical twist that Lucy didn't live to see, the retired president would be seen together with his second wife Mary Wambui at the Mama Lucy funeral service, no longer seeming to be concerned about whether the media and other people would call her his second wife. Many Kenyans remember Lcy Kibaki as a strong woman who understood the politics of the presidency and who played a major role in Mwai Kibaki's 10 years as the most transformative president of Kenya. In many ways, Lcy Kibaki had been Kenya's first unofficial female president,